Here's the sluggo, slant and go.
Casey the Beef Cregan. It's Wednesday night. Are you on the island tonight? Are you living the island life?
Yeah, my wife asked me the other day when I was traveling next. I think she's getting it's getting old that I'm here for the last 2 weeks. Haven't traveled much.
There's a clue. When your wife asks you, when are you going out of town? Oh, that's kind of scary, Case.
Yeah, she's probably going to get her boyfriend here or whatever. It's fine.
I didn't mean it that way. I just meant she wanted some, like the old Jeff Foxworthy joke. I need some space without you in it. I need some space. That's half a sentence. The other half is without you in it. Right? It's kind of funny because my wife is just the opposite. We went to the doctor Friday, and she can now drive again after 5 weeks of being housebound, and she is out running the streets, as we say, and that is not a bad thing. That's our love language. Is I stopped by the store this morning, picked up a few things, and brought her $50 and told her she could run the streets. She's got her license back. So I don't know how far $50 goes, but she's just happy to be able to go do things. 5 weeks. We lived in COVID times for a while there, but 5 weeks in the house, when you're the only one staying in the house, all the other people in the house are coming and going and doing whatever. But so she's getting better. But so we're on the opposite ends of this thing. But anyway, hey Case, a couple of weeks ago I told you that I went to the doctor with an ailment, and he told me that I was old. So last week I was exercising. I know it's hard to believe, right? But I was exercising, and I had gotten I think it's called a bull worker. It's one of those isometric things that you push in, because I am old, right? And I was scared that my lighting's not very good today. I was scared that I was going to have some type of attack lifting weights, and it was going to fall on my head or something. I didn't have anybody to spot me. Not that I'm lifting heavy weights. It's just, it's free weights. Things happen, right? Especially when you're my age. And so I started doing this isometric thing, and like 3 days in, I had this horrible shoulder pain over here, and my left shoulder, and I thought I was having a stroke. And so I went to the doctor, and he said, "What's the problem?" And I said, "Well," he said, "Before you say anything, let me ask you, do you know you're old?" I'm like, what in the heck is this? That's 2 doctors that have said I'm old. So it's kind of funny. It must be is that what they're teaching them in med school these days? Tell these old people they're old. So that's 2 different doctors who have told me the first thing out of their mouth is, well, you're old, right?
The old saying, like, what do they call the guy who finished last in his class in med school? Doctor. You may have 2 of those. You may have found both of them.
Well, he explained it to me. He said, "Look, I'm older, so I can say this." And and this is the guy I put on Twitter, by the way, that I finally found a real nice Ohio State fan. He went to Ohio State. So I got a dentist that went to Notre Dame, a doctor that went to Ohio State. I've got to do some better research on my my healthcare professionals.
But pre-med at Clemson,
Yeah, he was a super duper nice guy. Ended up didn't help me much, but he was nice. He was a nice guy. So that's how we got to the name Second Opinion. I got a second opinion, and they both agree that I'm old. So I don't know how your week went, but that was mine.
Yeah, that's great. No, I haven't had much of a better week. My car brakes seized on me, and my car doesn't have a lot of miles on it, but here I was thinking that I got a steal a couple months ago when I bought this. I have a Jeep Wrangler. When I bought this Jeep Wrangler with 12,000 miles on it, and it's 3 years old, I'm like, I'm getting a steal. Apparently, if a car sits too long, like the things go wrong with the brakes, like all that fluid kind of gets. And if you don't know anything about cars, then you don't think about that. You just think you got a steal on a vehicle.
That would be me.
And the brakes seized on me while I was driving. Thankfully, my slider wasn't in there. So I've spent 2 days working at a car dealership this week. So that's always fun. But this one has like a cafe in it.
I've done that too. And yes, they all have cafes in there. This particular car dealership, by the way, Kevron says, good evening.
Hey, Kevron, always good to see you.
And our compatriot over there, rubbing their rock, says, Don Rickles is your doctor. Well, I don't know if he's Don Rickles. He's a Ohio State grad. So we'll leave it at that. Yeah, they all have the cafes now. They don't want you to notice that you're spending $20 million in the service department. The service department I bought, I've got a Honda Ridgeline, and they told me he told me up front, we don't make any money off the sales. We got 114 bays out there that we service cars with. And when he gave me the bill, I understood why, because he recommended like $3,000, and now it's up around 80,000 miles now, but $3,000 in repairs, of which I said, thank you. I'll talk to you about this later. And so we'll figure it all out. But
can you just turn that yellow light off? That's all I'm asking. You don't have to fix anything. Just turn it off.
There's a story about that too. One of the issues was the clock that is set, by whatever up in the sky, a satellite or something, was off ever since the new year. Not when time changed, but when the new year hit, it screwed all the clocks in the Hondas up. And I said, could you fix this clock? And the homie said, well, we found that we can only fix those clocks at exactly noon. You can fix one a day. You'll be here. He said it has to be exactly noon for us
so
to
they can hit the reset button.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. That's a true story. And so now my clock says like 10 p.m. right now or something. Who cares really?
Who cares?
It bothers Parker and it bothers my wife. It does not bother me at all. Of course, I had to look at it for the longest, and I'm used to it now.
If only we had anything else in our possession that we could see what time it was.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I started wearing this Fitbit, which is the first watch I've had in like 20 years, really. Once I got a cell phone, like in 2000, the big brick, I stopped wearing a watch. And now this is the first one my wife encouraged me, let's say, to wear the Fitbit. Hey, Case, I don't know if you've noticed, but Clemson has lost a commit in the last week or so. Reed McKeska, a tight end out of Texas, decommitted from the Tigers and took a visit to Oklahoma. And, he hadn't committed. I saw after that he got a offer from Oregon. So, maybe he's just biding his time till he goes and commits to Oklahoma, because he seemed really gung-ho about that offer from Oklahoma. But the bigger story than that, maybe not bigger, is Nathaniel Joseph rumors. Now, this guy's been committed to Clemson since September. Of course, September was before the coach change in Miami, and Nathaniel Joseph is a 4-star wide receiver from Miami. Theoretically and supposedly, as I wrote on Rubbing the Rock today, his family's real big on Miami, and we know Miami has an NIL program, to help the kids. And rumors and innuendo are that he is likely going to also decommit and end up at Miami. So Clemson had 4 commitments. They now have 3. They could be trending towards 2. Now, if JP's out there listening, he's going to tell us not to worry. And I'm not really worried. I won't be worried until after June the 3rd comes and goes. But Nathaniel Joseph is supposed to be on campus for that June 3 weekend at Clemson. If he's still a Clemson commit by then, it'll be interesting to see if he shows up.
Yeah, I mean, I hate losing kids once they're committed. And I think just like anybody else, you just don't like, if a kid commits, you think that they're in. We kind of embrace who our coach is. We kind of gain a little bit from who our coach is, so that when somebody's committed, you want them to be committed. But then you have to do the flip side, and I'm an older guy as well. So these kids are 18 years old, and you and I have joked many times on this show, like I didn't know what bathroom I wanted to use when I was 18 years old, let alone where I wanted to go to college. When you have 37,000 schools that want you to come play football there. So, I mean, it's kind of double-edged sword. Like, you hate losing the kid, but can you blame him? I wouldn't like losing Joseph just because he's been committed so long. He's actually done some recruiting, some of the recruiting that kind of took the bell cow of the recruiting class and was trying to say, the choice to some of these other guys that are offered. But like JP said, and I trust JP. I mean, he's our guy. He's our insider for this show, definitely, and obviously an insider for Clemson. I mean, he said it wouldn't be a big loss. Not that the kid's not really good, but just because the next steps down. So, yeah, I think Houston said it the other night on the Morgan Thomas show, just that the board is going to expand. I think as Clemson fans, like and I'm guilty of this, the sky's not falling, and as much as we think it is with two guys, and you see Notre Dame has 12 or whatever their number is. I think Clemson's going to be okay. They're going to get their guys. This is going to be a bigger class, as we've heard. And they're not just going to get Daniel High School kids again, I don't believe. I think they're going to get quality kids. They may be 3 and 4 stars instead of getting the blue chip 5-star guys. And we'll be okay. Trust the staff. They still have the equity. We had a terrible year last year, and we're 10-3. They still have equity.
No doubt. And Anthony, I can never do this right. Anthony Weeks checks in, says, "What's up, Marty and Casey?
What's up, Anthony?
Good to see you, Anthony. I saw your face the other day. I don't know where it was, Facebook, Twitter, somewhere. But it's good to see you. I recognize the name, put it with the face, and appreciate you checking in on us. Yeah, there. You look at the top 10, and some of those teams that are currently top 10 in the recruiting rankings, some of those teams aren't going to end up there. Texas Tech is not going to end up in the top 10. I would be willing to wager. But those top 10 are averaging between 10 and 11. I added them up quickly the other day. I think it was like 10.7 commits. Notre Dame was obviously in there. So, you look at that and you say you got 3. Clemson has 3. Hey, but guess how many Alabama has? 3. Last time I looked, Alabama also had 3. I don't think they're jumping off a cliff in Tuscaloosa. Are there cliffs in Tuscaloosa? I don't think they're jumping off the top of the stadium in Tuscaloosa quite yet. Not saying Clemson is at Alabama's level in recruiting, but they're fairly close, right? They're 10th in the nation last year. So I would just say if the June visits come and go and they miss out on more recruits, then I don't know about worry, because I can't do anything about it, right? I can't go out there and recruit anybody. And JP laid this out in a post the other day that I was going to kind of riff off of on Rubbing the Rock. The staff is new, but it's not like they're Joe Blows. I mean, you're talking C.J. Spiller, a Hall of Fame, running back, a college football Hall of Famer. And some of the other guys are new. We don't know about Wes Goodwin yet, how he's going to recruit. Tyler Grisham, he's recruited some of the stud wide receivers that are there now. It's not the coffers aren't empty. It's Tommy.
Nick Eason.
Yeah, Nick Eason, NFL guy, right?
Streeter's been known, even though we may question him as offensive coordinator. He's been known to recruit a guy or two. So
yeah, I mean, it's that time of year where people are looking for things to gripe about, especially after you go 10-3. And I'm one of those people, right? There's some unease there, but at the same time, I recognize I can't do anything about it. I can complain about it, whatever, but that's not going to get any more recruits into Clemson, and neither is bashing people on Twitter. That's not going to add any more recruits. So just wanted to touch on that. A couple of recruits look like they're going somewhere else.
It's talking season. That's what it is. And then when you lose somebody, it's especially because then you have opposing fan bases that are just then starting to trash talk Clemson, and just don't take the bait. And I'm telling myself that, really, you just can't take the bait, especially because at the end of the day, Clemson's going to be a top 15 class. It's just perennially that's what they are. I mean, they've really never been like top 2 class. It's just, I think they're going to be just fine.
Houston says he's waiting in the weeds. I saw him.
If you want to get in-depth recruiting knowledge, that guy is it.
I saw Houston. I saw you jousting on Twitter the other day, yesterday, I believe it was, with somebody who thought the world was coming to an end because of Reed McKeska and Nathaniel Joseph, apparently. So I'm ready for it, and Rubbing the Rock is ready for your words of wisdom whenever you get to them. Hey, Casey, I don't know if you know this, but Clemson's hosting a softball regional. Actually, I do know that you know this because you wrote a very, very well-written piece today for Rubbing the Rock. You broke down all 4 teams. Now, usually we only ask you to break down one team. That's Clemson's opponent for that weekend. But you stepped up your game. And, I say this to you. We're friends. We're on show number 91. I think you do a better job at these breakdowns than any other Clemson website. And I'm not just saying that because I need you to keep writing them, but I honestly believe it. And I really enjoy reading them.
Well, I really appreciate those comments, Marty. You know that, and I sincerely mean that. But it's I have to be honest and tell you, it's a little self-serving. A lot of this stuff I want to be knowledgeable. I have a friend in Tampa that calls me Rain Man just because I know weird, random stats. I think Houston can give me a run for my money on it. But so things like this is something that I want to know. I'm going to be watching the regional this weekend because it's Clemson, because they're hosting, because I was so involved with the team last year. Not so much this year, but I've still kept up with them a good bit. So it was just interesting to look at who was there, how they got there, what are the chances. You have Auburn who's there, so you think SEC. You have about 100 SEC teams that are ranked in the top 25. And, I just wanted to find out, Auburn's in it, so they must be a really good top-level team. They were 10th in the SEC. Louisiana, oh man, they can't be good. Oh my God, they're 45-11. They won the regular season of their Sun Belt Conference going away, and then just completely stormed through their conference tournament. You're like, wow. And then you're like, okay, UNC Wilmington, they're in the Southeast. They got to be somewhat decent. Well, of course they are. They're making the tournament, but they're 32-13. They're a bid stealer. They were 4th in the CAA, probably not getting in the tournament, and they won their conference championship, so they're in it. So it's 4 interesting teams. Of course, we know Clemson a little bit. We know Valerie Cagle, the do-it-all pitcher and first base / outfielder / do-it-all. John Rittman, and it's just exciting to have him at McWhorter Stadium this weekend. And so again, thank you for the words. I know way more right now about the Louisiana Ragin' Cajun softball team than I ever thought I would.
Well, that's a good point. It's similar to me in the recruiting, right? Normally this time of year, we may talk about a guy or two here like we did last year, but it's kind of on the periphery. But since we've been on Rubbing the Rock, I feel like I need to know recruiting because people like to read about recruiting, right? And boy, do they. So I'm a little bit more into that. And so it's actually really interesting. If you look at it a different way, Casey, we're getting paid to learn. Paid.
You guys might be the way you guys spit out.
Well, I checked today. Next month, when you get your check, you should officially be able to buy anything you want at Five Below.
Woo!
I know that was your goal, but
I'm retiring.
Let's see. Houston says Clemson is literally a decade ahead of schedule in softball. Inning winning done in the tournament is icing on the cake this year.
See, I agree 100% with him. I was having a conversation with good friend of the show, Nelson Wilhite, and he thinks they need to get out of the regional. I saw a guy from D1Softball.com say that Clemson will make Oklahoma City this year. And if anybody is unfamiliar with the College World Series, baseball, they go to Omaha every year. In softball, they go to Oklahoma City. Now, if they do come out of the regional as the 10 overall seed, they have to play the winner of the where are they? Where is Oklahoma State? They're at that regional. Oklahoma State and Nebraska are the 1-2 in that regional. Stillwater, thank you. And so one guy thinks that Clemson can match up with Oklahoma State. High praise, I think, like Houston said, I think right now they are light years ahead. He said a decade of where they should be. This is year 3, second full year, and they've already not only made the tournament. I think they got a little robbed last year from hosting. They had a tough draw when they went to Tuscaloosa. Now this year they are actually hosting. They're the 10th overall seed. It's awesome. I mean, if you're not a fan, jump on board because this is a lot. It's a fun game. Like I said, you and I both, admittedly, Marty, didn't watch nearly as much as we watched last year. But I'll be glued this weekend.
Jimmy Hanna checks in and says, hello. Hello,
Hey, Jimmy.
Hanna. That sounds like a new name or one we're not familiar with. Let us know where you're watching from, Jimmy.
Yeah,
appreciate you checking in, man. Really cool. So, Casey, do you think they get out of it this weekend, or what's your take on these teams with all the research you've done?
Yeah, so I do think they get out. So Clemson will play UNC Wilmington Friday at noon, and then followed right after with Auburn and Louisiana. I think it's going to come down to Clemson and Louisiana. I think the pitching is just unreal. Auburn has a pitcher, Matty Penta, who has 258 strikeouts, which is far and away the best strikeout count of the regional. Louisiana has a fantastic freshman duo of Alexa Langoliers, who has 13 home runs, hitting 370. Freshman center fielder, Maddie Haplin, who's 27 of 33 in stolen bases. She hits out of the 8-hole. I think Louisiana at 45-11, they don't have any real notable wins. Maybe you could say Georgia State or Georgia Southern twice each. But nothing really jumped off the page at me to say what their big wins were. Auburn, of course, they're in the SEC. 39-15 is a good record in the SEC. Finished 10th, like I said, in the conference. Big wins: Kentucky, Florida, Georgia twice. Clemson fans know that Georgia beat Clemson on a walk-off this year. Bree Ellis is a true freshman. That's a name that you need to know. She has 18 home runs on the season. She's a first baseman for Auburn. And then for Wilmington, they literally don't have any stats that jump off the page at me whatsoever. I was going through it yesterday for the article, except they run. They run like crazy. Out of their top 9, they have the minimum 8 stolen bases from 1 to 9 in their lineup. And they're led by their leadoff hitter, Taylor Vitola, with 26 stolen bases. So Clemson, again, here I am making us sound like we're not good enough. Clemson is fantastic, 39-15, ACC tournament runner-up, 5th in the conference, led by, of course, Valerie Cagle, 304, 12 home runs. Also on the mound, she's 15-8, 2.05 ERA, and 166 strikeouts. Oh, by the way, if she's not doing it, we got Millie Thompson behind her, sophomore, 13-3, 1.69 ERA with 99 strikeouts. And Mackenzie Clark's having a great year. She has 11 doubles, 11 home runs. She's hitting 327. Aaliyah Logoleo, Bo Collins' girlfriend, is hitting 304 and 12 home runs. I mean, it's just fantastic, again, for John Rittman and the crew. And so I'm excited for it. I do think Clemson gets out of this regional, but I don't think it's Auburn that they go up against in the final. I think it's Louisiana.
Okay, interesting. And look, it's Clemson Hype House, your Twitter buddy there, Case. Do either of you know Clemson softball recruiting is going? How it's going? Are they going to be able to take advantage of Cagle and her teammates for a long run in the future? Recruiting.
So I will tell Mr. Hype House here that I don't know names, but I do know that it is a national recruiting. Having John Rittman, who coached the U.S. national team and was at Stanford for a lot of years, had his hands in the West Coast a lot. So I think Abby Vieira this year is from California. There was somebody else that they had, but already the freshmen that are playing this year, that Abby Vieira being one of them, she's the catcher. I can't think of the other. The first baseman, Maddie Moore, maybe. There's a pitcher. There's a pitcher as well that here's all my research going to crap right here. But I think recruiting is key. You're exactly right. I do think they are going to be just fine. I think they found a gem at catcher. Like I keep mentioning her, but Abby Vieira, she's fantastic. And I think there's going to be somebody like that every year. We may not get somebody like Valerie Cagle. They might as well just build her a statue. But I'm hoping for someone like Mackenzie Clark, who was all world. How she got to Clemson, I'm not sure, but we're thankful for however she got here. like a Logaleo, like a Vieira. I mean, heck, there's just names for days. So I really do think that Clemson recruiting with John Rittman and staff is going to just continue to get better and better and better, especially with these results. People are going to start wanting to come here.
Yeah, it's
get out of this regional. People are going to start calling and breaking his door down.
They do get a fair amount of publicity. I was going to say a lot, but I don't have a feel for. I have a feel for what's a lot in football, and maybe a little bit in basketball, but certainly not in softball. But Mr. Hype House, we're glad to have you. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you and appreciate you on Twitter also.
Definitely.
Good follow there. Clemson baseball case, we have to talk about it. They lost the second game of the DH to Virginia. I could not stay up for that. Had to go into town on Monday. So after the first game started at, I think, 9 o'clock here in the morning, seriously, if it was 10 on the East, it was 9 here. And then the second game started at, I think, 8:30 at night here. Couldn't make it to the end. But anyway, they lost that game. Not a big deal, as you also wrote about. Not a big deal. You don't want to lose 2 out of 3. But, you didn't get swept. You won a game in Virginia. You played well for part of the weekend. But, my gosh, they didn't play well last night. In a 17-2 loss to Coastal Carolina in Conway. I gave up in the second or third inning because it looked like the team gave up in the second or third inning, right? And I had other things on the plate, obviously. So I gave up. They got crushed 17-2. That can't help their playoff resume. But this weekend, or starting tomorrow, actually, Thursday, Friday, Saturday this weekend, Boston College, 5-22 in the ACC. They did beat Florida State one game. I saw that a couple of weeks ago when Clemson was in a rain delay. They beat Florida State. They're 5-22 in the ACC. Clemson is 1/2 game ahead of Duke as a final team to make the ACC tournament. Duke has to play 3 games at Virginia Tech in Plattsburgh. Thoughts on the Clemson baseball team and where they're at right now?
I was going to stay quiet. I was going to stay quiet and just
no, you're not.
Make you think that there was a glitch in the mechanism here. Man, I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago about the roller coaster, and how in 7th grade the cute girl wanted me to get on the roller coaster after 2.5 hours, and I was scared, and I finally went. I loved it. I want to get off the roller coaster now. This is only like 2 weeks later too. Man, oh man. I truly thought they played pretty well over the weekend. I really did. I thought the pitching was okay. And okay at this point of the season is a leg up from when they went on that huge losing streak. I thought they were swinging it well. I thought they just played a better team this weekend. And they were very fortunate, and they played outstanding on Sunday morning to get that Game 2 win. I thought Jeffrey Gilbert was fantastic. I was so excited to see Nick Hoffman get a start yesterday because I've seen him live personally in one of the 2 games that I went this year in relief, and just pounding the strike zone, staying low down in the zone, and getting ground balls. And holy moly, who the heck was the kid that took the mound last night? It was a completely different guy. I guess it's a mindset. I know it's a mindset. I was never a pitcher, but I know it's a mindset. But when you're beating Winthrop 6-0, then you can come in and just be free and easy. But when it's 0-0, you're a little tense. But that game wasn't even competitive, and that's my gripe. And you know me, I'm a sunshine pumper. Everyone knows I always try to find the good in everything, and this team, but be competitive. And you and I were talking before the show. There's a certain hitter that leads the country in strikeouts right now, and it's like it's just out of the 90 strikeouts for the season, he's not been competitive in probably 86 of those. Yeah. That's what I don't like, and I get blinded by the greatness that is Max Wagner this year, and I love Blake Wright as well, and I think Cooper Ingle is fantastic. So I get blinded by those guys, and Blackwell is good too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have been really good, and Will Taylor's been a great story coming back. But you just have to have, when they all have competitive at bats, this team is fantastic. But when they're down by 7 runs, and I know it's got to be debilitating to be down by that much that quickly. But good night, Irene. Just battle at the plate for Christmas sake and try. I don't know. I mean, I know they're trying, but it's a tough watch. JP was there last night. Like, I was feeling so bad for him. I hope he left. He didn't, because he interviewed Monty after the game. Well, I felt so bad for him.
I agree 100% that they competed over the weekend. Those were fun games to watch, win or lose. You can watch those games.
I watched all 3 start to finish.
Last night was not a fun watch.
I turned it off in the 4th.
Oh, okay. You lasted longer than I did. Chancey says every time you think Clemson's done, they come back.
Right.
Well,
he's right.
That appears to be true, and let's hope that happens the next 3 days against Boston College. Except hopefully they don't appear to be done. But let's see. Our man is right here.
There he is.
Hard to fathom what happened with Grice this season. 90 strikeouts, JP. 90 strikeouts, and on a lot of those, as Casey just mentioned, he hadn't even been close. If he's not caught looking at something right down the plate, he's way out in front of a changeup. And we were talking before the show, it's gotten so bad, the announcers and everybody else knows what's coming, and I'm sure he does too, and he still can't hit a changeup. It's
batting ninth. How do you have this kid batting ninth?
At the beginning of the year, we thought he was going to be an All-American, right? A Seth Beer type year. Well, Max Wagner has surpassed Seth Beer in my book, because he's batting about 400 last time I looked. Let's see. Yeah. JP says
a lot of them on 3 pitches.
Yeah. When he's not coming close, there's no reason to do anything else except throw it over the plate. That's the way it's going.
If you're striking out that much, okay. If you're competitive, if you're peeing on pitches, if you're fouling stuff off, and I told you before again, the kid O'Farrell for Virginia was one of those hitters that falls in line to my dictionary definition of scary hitter. He wasn't going to hit a home run every time, but you knew he was going to battle every at bat. He went 12 pitches in the game 2 on Sunday with Barlow, and I knew at about pitch 8 that he was going to get a hit. And there were pitches that were coming. They were good pitches. I'm pretty sure it was Barlow, threw really good pitches. And he just flung his wrists out and would, what I always call, pee on them. And he would just tip them to the backstop, to left field, to right field. And I mean, that's all. I know it's so easy to say from this bench and chair in the bedroom here, but just be competitive. I'm not asking for 12 pitch at bats every time, but be competitive. He's a college hitter. He's way better than I was ever, seeing faster pitches and better sliders. But I was able to pee on pitches. Ah!
Cooper Engel does that really well. JP says Wagner's at 377. I think that's better than Beer ever hit. I think Beer hit at
Blackwell does it too.
Yeah.
Corbett does it. Blake Wright does it. Sorry, I'm done.
That's okay. I heard the delays of the weekend screwed up travel plans. I do think it's possible the team was just drained. Of course, yeah. But they're also
not 17-2 drained.
They're 19 and 20-year-old kids. I mean, I went to 2 football games in a same day when I was that age. One in Clemson, one in Columbia, then drove to Charleston, turned around, went back to Clemson the next day, and failed every test I had that week. But I made it there. I was competitive. A 52 is competitive. JP says spent all of Monday on the bus instead of coming back.
Wow. So they drove to Virginia and then had to all right, they got an excuse to lose. But again, it's not 17-2 lose.
Yeah, they really wanted to get that game in. I realized that when it was not called and it was like 7 o'clock my time. I'm like, that's 8 o'clock Eastern. They haven't called this game yet. They really, really wanted to get in. JP says, I asked Monty about the fatigue, and he wasn't having any of that. Of course, he wouldn't. He may after the season, but in the moment, you don't want to appear to be making excuses. But yeah, that's a good
Hey,
question to ask, though.
now it's behind you, and I know he
Yeah.
said that in the interview. I watched JP's interview with him last night. Now it's behind him. Now everything's in front of you. You play. You got 3 games to prove it, and I don't. I'm doing my prediction. I have my stats right here to look at, and I have a little bit of film on BC that I pulled up on YouTube, just to see some of these hitters. But you'll get my preview tomorrow, and a little
Well,
foreshadowing. I'm not sure I'm predicting a sweep. Let's just say that.
as I said, half a game ahead of Duke. Duke's got 3 scheduled in Blacksburg against a good Virginia Tech team. So it's going to be a interesting weekend of college baseball.
Top five Virginia Tech team.
Interesting weekend of college softball in Clemson. So the spring sports are coming to a head. Let's see, JP's got another comment here.
Yeah.
All I know about BC is they aren't very good, and their Friday night pitcher's pretty decent. That's when they beat Florida State. I think they beat them on Friday night, or I think it was rain delay till Saturday. I'm assuming the Friday pitcher went on Saturday.
What's scary? Oh, go ahead.
What's that? No, you go ahead.
What's scary about BC, and just a quick glance tonight when I printed off the stat sheet, is that their 1 through 9 hitters, just batting average alone, I know that's an ancient archaic stat that no one follows anymore, is eerily similar to Clemson starters. So the heavy up top, and they got a couple guys in the Troyer area, the below Mendoza line, and they got a couple boppers. I know they got a guy with 15 home runs and a guy with 13 home runs. So they got some pop. I think everybody in their 1 through 9 has at least 2 home runs. And the pitchers don't look good. They don't. Their ERAs do not look good. I mean, there's a couple that have had multiple outings, like multiple outings, that have a 10.36 ERA or a 10.26 ERA or an 11.65 ERA, and those guys all combined have 42 appearances. So I'm hopeful that we get a Georgia Tech style pitching staff from Boston College outside of Friday. But if you get Mac Anglin, again, like JP and I always say, it all starts with Mac. If you get a good outing from Mac Anglin, that's another thing. I thought he got screwed last week, but you got a good outing from Mac Anglin Friday night in Clemson. I think it could very well be a 3-game sweep.
I'll tell you what, JP has a comment here about he still follows batting averages. I do too, to a certain extent, especially in college baseball. It doesn't mean that much in the MLB, or as much in the MLB, but it still means a good bit in college baseball. What, you talk about scary hitters and scary teams and things that Boston College, all of their teams, no matter the sport, are kind of scary to me, right? Because they're not going to give up, right? Those kids are going to leave. I hate this saying most of the time. They're going to leave everything on the field, the court, the whatever, right? The diamond, the field, the court, whatever venue they're playing at, they give it their all. They what's the word? They overperform in football, basketball this year, and in baseball. They have nobody that looks spectacular except for that guy who was drafted in like number 20 last year and is kicking butt. But he wasn't even spectacular. He's just solid, fundamentally strong. That's Boston College. And when you see Clemson throw the ball around the field and miss pitches by 3 feet and not always fundamentally sound, that worries me. That sometimes those teams can give Clemson a hard time. So their sport worried me a little bit.
I think it was last year. I think it was like a 19-16 game. There was one game that you looked at it on paper and you're like, Clemson should absolutely roll BC, and every game was a battle. So that's what I'm looking at and thinking of. And some of these names are very familiar to me that I see on the sheet on that team last year, or it may have been 2 years ago. But yeah, they're going to battle, and this is it for them. They lost to Maine last night, and a team they should beat. I mean, they're an ACC caliber team. They should beat Maine, unless Jack Leggett is at the helm of Maine again. But this is it. They have 3 games left of their season, You don't think they want to win a couple of them? I mean, I was that kid at one point where you're on a losing team and you want to spoil something.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna give Clemson their best effort. I really do.
And like I said, these kids are not quitters, right? There are some teams you knew if they were in Boston College's place, you could pretty much count on 2 wins and likely 3. But I have never seen Boston College quit in any sport. They have my respect for that, and it's going to be tough. You win 3 games, you're in the ACC tournament, no matter what Duke does. But sweeping for Clemson is not easy this season, despite what happened against Georgia. All right, Casey, wrap it up and let's get out of here for this Wednesday night. By the way, are we taking off next week for Memorial Day, or are you going to be around? Are you traveling? Or
when's Memorial Day? Monday?
Yeah.
I don't know.
A week after our show, 5 days. I thought we were starting an early weekend. We'll talk about it.
We'll see. Ask my wife. I'm indecisive. Thanks to everyone in the Seldom Used Reserve College Football Discussion Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for all his help, John Chansey for being a good all-around guy, Uncle John McGee, as always, JP Priester for all his knowledge that he helps us with here, and each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares, and participates. On behalf of Marty, Seldom Used Reserve Coleman, I am Casey the Beef Cregan. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to check out rubbingtherock.com. We'll see you right here probably next week on Sluggo.
Next week or the week after. Whatever. We'll figure it out.
We'll see if there's news.
Later, Case. Hey, appreciate everybody. JP, Chansey, Hype House. Who am I missing?
Anthony Weeks.
Houston Burnett. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week or the week after. Later.